Súbale es el súbale es súbale
Bienvenidos todos y todas a este webinar. Vamos a dar un minuto más para arrancar. Bem-vindo todos e todas a este webinar com Subali. A gente vai dar ainda um minuto mais para começar. Welcome everyone. One more minute before we start. Hola a todos y todas. Un minuto más antes de que arranquemos. Estamos habilitando una solución de traducción en vivo y arrancamos en breve. Jordan, one more minute and we will be ready to start.
Perfect.
Listo. Good morning. Bon dia. Buenos días para todos, para todas. Nos encontramos hoy con Jordan, experto en omnicanalidad y fundador de Tomorrow Retail. Y previamente lideró el negocio de e-commerce de Walmart en China. Es una persona excepcional con una experiencia gigante de la cual seguro podemos sacar muchos aprendizajes para Latinoamérica. Yo soy Sebastián Monroy, soy el cofundador y CEO de Subali, donde nos dedicamos a trabajar con los retailers en toda Latinoamérica para ayudarles a escalar sus canales digitales de manera rentable. Lo hacemos a través de dos productos principales. El primero, FlexiFleet, que es un marketplace de trabajadores independientes para hacer picking, packing y delivery de sus órdenes de e-commerce y así pueda tener un mejor nivel de servicio, deleitar a sus clientes y bajar los costos. Y el segundo es un software conversacional sobre WhatsApp para que cualquier retailer en Latinoamérica pueda comenzar a vender en un canal nuevo en WhatsApp y así llegar a sus clientes donde ellos están y incrementar sus ventas. Entonces, muy feliz de esta conversación con Jordan. Por favor, ir dejando sus preguntas. Van a encontrar en la parte inferior una sección que se llama Q&A o preguntas. A medida que avance la conversación, pueden ir escribiéndolas y yo al final, una vez Jordan termine, iremos respondiéndolas todas las que logremos por el tiempo. Jordan, welcome. Great to have you here. Para meus amigos brasileiros, acho que deu para entender o portunhol, o espanhol. E vamos. Bem-vindo, Jordan. Welcome, Jordan. Let's go.
Thank you. Bom dia. Buenos dias. Good morning. So good to be here. I want to start actually with a story, though. And I want to start in a moment in 2016 in a conference room in Shenzhen, China.
Súbale es el
Sorry, I will continue, but I do want to see that clip in a minute. Sebastian, let's come back to it. But let me take you to this conference room in 2016, an incredible moment, a moment of tension for us at Walmart China, as over the previous 3 quarters, our sales were suffering. Our e-commerce growth was slow, and we were getting killed by e-commerce marketplaces that were not only taking e-commerce share, but also taking store sales. I was in that room to present a proposed path forward. We needed a different approach. We had to figure out a way to compete with marketplaces by leveraging our advantages. We could not be Alibaba and JD and Pinduoduo. We had to have a unique approach. And so that morning, I proposed an approach where Walmart would be the country's best at on-demand fresh. We would deliver fresh faster and in a more trusted way than any retailer in the country. And by winning in fresh, we would build on adjacent categories. We also would commit that our branded app would be our primary channel where we would be best. Yes, we would sell on marketplaces and super apps, but we would deliberately make our app the best channel in the country, and that is the #1 destination for customers. We also would win with our stores. We would commit to what we called elite fulfillment capabilities, that our stores would pick faster, more efficiently than anyone in the country, and that would give us a speed and cost advantage. Part of that was investing in a gig platform in the country, the Subale of China, if you will, where we would gain an advantage by accessing a gig community of pickers and delivery teams that would give us that speed and cost effectiveness. Finally, we would invest. We knew that we needed 18 months of losses in order to get to scale so that we could monetize our business in a competitive way, and we needed to commit to that. Lastly, we needed to change our mindset. We had a very conservative store-first mindset to date. We needed to transition that to what we called a digital growth mindset, and by changing the way we thought about our business, the way we attacked growth, we would be faster, more agile, and able to compete with our pure play peers. This moment was the inflection point in 2016. And not only did it lead to 5 years of growth exceeding the market, it took Walmart in China from the #4 retailer in the country to the #1. And while China is different than Brazil and Chile and Mexico, there are parallels that I'm excited to talk about this morning that I think all of you, as you face the next 3 years of growth in Latin America, can learn from. So Melly, if you can bring up the slide to start. As Sebastian said, thank you so much for having me. I'm the CEO of Tomorrow, At Tomorrow, we advise some of the world's best retailers on how to drive digital growth and profitability. Prior to Tomorrow, I spent 15 years at Walmart, 13 of those years in China, founding and building the e-commerce business for Sam's Club and Walmart. I was also chairperson of Walmart's Global Omnichannel Forum, where all of our markets, including Walmart Brazil, Walmex, Central America, Walmart Chile, reported each month, and we determined what our priorities would be to lead as an omnichannel retailer globally. And I'm excited this morning to start by talking about some parallels. I'm going to set up what I see and we see at Tomorrow as being similar about what is happening in Latin America today and what we saw in China in 2016 and 2017. I'm going to talk about what we did at Walmart to be able to lead in omnichannel growth in China at that time, and 5 big decisions we made that helped us be able to compete at another level. I'm then going to translate those decisions to how we at Tomorrow see retailers in Latin America having 5 no-regret decisions, 5 things we think you can do to be able to accelerate your growth and profitability at this time, and I'll explain why we think those are the 5. I'll then transition and talk about AI and how AI is an accelerant of those 5 and what's happening in retail globally, and most notably in the US in the last couple of weeks around AI integration with e-commerce. It's an incredible moment, and we'll end on that as we wrap up those 5 no regrets and the role of AI in each of them. And so let's jump right in, Melly, to the next slide, and let's start by recognizing the moment you're facing as retailers across Latin America. It is a very unique moment. As on the upper left, you can see that e-commerce is now the growth engine for most of your markets. E-commerce is so significant today in Latin America that you as retailers cannot afford to undercompete in the channel. Those that can't maintain share or grow share in the e-commerce channel simply won't be able to make your budget. 31% of total dollar growth across the region is going to come in the online channel. In many categories, that's 40 or 50%. So if you can't be a winner in this channel, you simply won't be able to meet your sales expectations as a business. Moving to the right, the need for speed. You're also in a moment where speed is going to become a much more important capability for 2 reasons. The first is the same day or faster transformation that's happening at Mercado Libre and Amazon. And let me tell you, from outside of Latin America, the most disruptive thing happening in retail globally is Amazon's same day or faster transformation. As Amazon is able to deliver into your key cities in 6 hours or less, as they now are in North America, Europe, and Australia, it transforms the customer expectation on that platform. They end up seeing immediate GMV growth. Most of that growth comes from grocery and consumable categories, the categories that many of us as retailers need to maintain. This is a huge transformation, and Mercado Libre is actually doing it faster than Amazon is in your region, but both of them are committed to same day or faster. And if you don't pay attention to this, the pressure it will place on your sales is going to be dramatic. Meanwhile, the super apps are thriving, and Brazil is the best case and probably the closest thing to what we saw in China from around the world. You've got super apps that are trying to win that local on-demand opportunity. Super apps are a very important threat and opportunity. You have to be very thoughtful in how you approach them. For many of you, you can take advantage of the investment and growth that they're going to be driving, but ensure that you have a clear strategy, and I'll talk about that. Didi and Meituan were key parts of our moment in China. They're very aggressive. And so as they expand across the region, they're going to be key players to watch and figure out how you play. Meanwhile, on the lower left, retail media and monetization overall are now table stakes. Retailers who can't be competitive media and data companies just won't have the margin to be able to continue to compete. Retailers who are underperforming in retail media have approximately 30% less profit dollars to reinvest in growth. And so you've got to figure out what your approach is going to be a competitive media and data company in order to keep up. And on the lower right, of course, you've got the discounter expansion across the region. Incredible. As discounters start to pressure retailers, it becomes more important that your value proposition is clear And if you look at the US market, the only thing that is winning against Dollar General and Aldi is Walmart Plus. Walmart's ability to deliver into their markets and be more convenient than Dollar General, Aldi, the discounters, is the only thing taking share from them. So convenience and digitally driven convenience is critical as discounters become more a part of your consumer's life. Now, overall, stepping back, it's a very unique picture relative to the last 10 years going forward over the next 3. Any retailer who does not have a clear roadmap to defend and differentiate is going to struggle to reach your objectives. But you're not alone. Let's go to the next slide and look at the parallels with what we saw in China about 10 years ago. First, very similar to you, we had world-class marketplaces constantly upping expectations for consumers. Alibaba, JD, Pinduoduo, the owner of Temu, are some of the most aggressive businesses, let alone e-commerce businesses on the planet. And so as retailers, we were facing every month consumers expecting more because of how they elevated that expectation from a speed perspective, price, assortment. We had to fight. Another key discovery that is not dissimilar to what you face is the economic inputs here. We did a study in China at this time with a consulting partner and found that the economics of most of our cities actually favored e-commerce over physical retail. Why? A, labor costs as a percent of the basket were incredibly low. The ability to pick and deliver a basket was very cost effective. Second, not so much shown on this data here, but it's the real estate cost, that having a store located in downtown Shanghai, similar to Mexico City and Sao Paulo, was so expensive that it was more cost effective for us to deliver an order to a customer's apartment than to have a hypermarket located near them. That economic understanding shifted our CEO's perspective and helped us understand we have to win with e-commerce or else we won't be existing in this market. And the third, very similar to Latin America, was we saw consumers adopting technology far faster than retailers could keep up. Whether it was mobile payment, social commerce, our consumer was adapting tech so fast and our store fleet just couldn't keep up. We had to transform in order to match what our pure play competitors could do. There were some other factors that are probably unique to China. The cultural adaptability of the Chinese consumer is second to none. Every 90 days, Chinese people want to try something new. And so the ability to change fast was there. It did not take long for consumers to adopt a new shopping medium. Also, incomes were rising at an unprecedented rate. So somebody's time was worth more this week than it was last week. And so convenience was very important. And then the aggressive VC community made the e-commerce platforms much more cash rich and able to subsidize growth than I think what you're facing in some of your markets, not too dissimilar to what you're facing in probably Brazil right now. But those conditions made for a very challenging environment. And I want to mention that from the day we launched e-commerce at Walmart in China in 2012 until 2016, that meeting I set up our session with, our e-commerce business was slow, small, and unsuccessful. And it wasn't until that inflection point where we decided to reset the strategy and have a clear roadmap that we were able to start growing faster than market and start to win. And on the next slide, I want to define for you the 5 decisions that we made that morning and why each of those played such a critical role to our growth. I'm going to mention them here, and then I'll give a minute to each of them on the next few slides. The first thing that we did was we set a very clear channel strategy. And this may seem like a non-strategic thing, but most retailers don't have clarity on what do they need to achieve in their own branded app relative to an on-demand marketplace or super app and other channels. And we needed to be very clear, what is the mission of each channel? What are the OKRs associated with that channel so that all the teams involved were very clear on what we were intending to do in that channel. I'll explain a bit more about that. On the second upper right was the biggest thing we committed to, which is what we called elite store first fulfillment. We knew as our marketplace competitors got to same day or faster, the only way we could compete on speed and flexibility was by making our stores a strategic advantage. And so we committed that nobody in the country would pick an order faster, more efficiently, more accurately than us. Nobody would deliver it at a lower cost to serve. We would make stores our advantage. And in doing that, I'm going to talk about how we got our store associates to buy in and be part of what we called the frontline army, helping us to fight our competition and be part of our advantage, not our disadvantage. I'll also mention the investment we made in that gig platform to give us access to almost unlimited flexible labor, which was a key advantage. On the lower left, we also saw our stores as an environment that we needed to digitize. When customers are in store, we needed to have a digital connection with them in order to create a bridge with our e-commerce channel. So every customer that visited the store, we wanted the app to be an essential part of her visit so that we had connectivity and could drive her into the e-com channel and from there back into stores. I'll explain that, but what was most exciting in the lower right is the personalization productivity loop that gave us the chance to build. By digitizing the in-store experience, we now had visibility to the customer across channels, and we could begin to personalize her experience regardless of what channel she was in. This is a very powerful step because it enabled us to launch a media business that had more personalization, more insight than our competitors, which was a key step. And then underpinning that, the number 5 was embracing this digital growth ninja mindset, going from the traditional store thought, store process, store speed into a pure play digital mindset and how that helped us really move much faster, more aggressively. So let's talk about the first one, Melly, which is that channel strategy. Again, this seems basic, but many of you in the room today probably don't have very clear strategies by channel. And without that, you find a lot of duplication, a lot of confusion, and a lot of your stakeholders in the business, your merchant teams, your operators will be asking you, why are we selling on all these channels? We took a very strategic portfolio approach to say every channel has a role, and we will ensure we deliver on that role to meet the strategic goal. Our app will be the number one most important channel, not just for e-commerce, but for the entire company. This is where we will win, and we will ensure that the best product is available, the best pricing and promotion, the best customer experience from a speed and consistency standpoint. We will win in this app, and it will be the best place to shop in the country if you're a consumer. Meanwhile, we'll be on the other marketplaces, the iFoods of China at the time. We will list, we will participate, but we will do it with the intent to drive a few key goals. 1, new customers. Customers that are shopping our competitors will go to those marketplaces to win and bring them into our branded app. 2, the volume. We'll take that extra volume into our stores to be able to drive down our cost per pick and make productivity an advantage. And 3, in our media business, as we built it, having access to those marketplaces will give us more inventory, which was very strategic. We also sold on what I would call the Mercado Libre of China, JD. We would go onto that marketplace even to be able to, again, reach customers, serve geographies that we didn't have store access in. And so having real clarity here brought everybody onto the same page and allowed us to go and fight in each one of these channels with our resources aligned. Next slide, as we think about how the stores came in. As I mentioned, we truly believed, and we still at Tomorrow believe that most retailers, if they leverage their store fleet well, can win with stores. And you know what? Many retailers don't believe that. They think it's harder to fulfill out of stores. It causes more complication dealing with store operators and maybe having pickers on the sales floor. We saw it very differently. We thought if we could get our stores to be engaged and excited and competing against e-commerce players, we had a better chance of winning. And so the first thing that we did was target as a company that we would win by store fulfillment. We then gave the stores the right tools, including human automation tooling that helped them pick easier, more efficiently, the right software, the right KPIs, the right incentives, the right CapEx. We started to really build a model with them that gave them the tools to win, as well as the mindset. We engaged them in a change management journey that got them as excited as the e-commerce team to fight and win in e-commerce. They saw this as a way for them to capture more share for their store and to be able to defend against the pressure that was coming from e-commerce players. This is where innovation comes, where a store operator came to us one day and said, I want to dedicate a little bit of space in my store so that I can pick my top 100 SKUs more efficiently. That idea from a store operator turned into the pick zone, where every single store or club in China now has about 2,000 square feet where they pick their top 2,000 SKUs. And by doing that, we take picking traffic off the sales floor, we get efficient, and we're able to fight and compete on those 2,000 SKUs in ways nobody in the country can. So getting stores to be part of the journey was a huge unlock. Next slide. As I said, stores are also a critical environment to engage consumers digitally. So we went from seeing the app as an e-commerce channel to the app as a bridge, a relationship management tool that helped us connect with consumers whenever they needed us. We did that by introducing features that were in store. We started with scan and go. Our stores were large and waiting in lines was a real trouble for customers. And yes, scan and go drove a little bit of an increase in shrink, but it was more than made up for in the added spend that we got from customers that used this feature, the added frequency. They ended up in the store more frequently for quick trips that we never would have gotten as a hypermarket. And we were able to take scan and go and build on it by adding additional features, including gamification. Each time a visitor came to the store, we created a spin and win moment. We also began to focus on the app in store as the anchor point for all promotions, meaning over time, as a customer, if you did not have the app activated when you were in a store, you just didn't know what was on promo because it was all about the app telling you what was on, what event was running in store, what promotions were occurring by category. And by driving the engagement that we did, once we got to 30% penetration of customers, we were able to introduce China's most effective media products, because targeting consumers while they're in store shopping an aisle is the most incredible moment for a brand and an advertiser. And so that media became a huge tailwind for us in terms of enabling us to invest. And then finally, in this of the 4 big steps, next slide, please. We also, as I said, decided to change our mindset. This was the cultural change that really accelerated it all, because up to this point in 2016, most of my team, like me, were former Walmart people. We came from stores, we were buyers, we were operators. We needed to infuse that team with some pure play thinking. And so we brought in at the manager and senior manager level, a ton of people from Alibaba, JD, and others. The directors and above were still Walmart folks, but the mid-management was pure play. And we embraced this much faster, much more aggressive mindset. We aligned with leadership that we would have digital-only pricing. Pricing by channel, we could set as a team within some guardrails, but it gave us the flexibility to be able to fight our peers in a much more flexible way. We invented our own shopping festivals. Instead of waiting and fighting on 11/11 and 618 against our peers, we decided to go on the offense and create 8/8, August 8th, which is what you're seeing on the pictures on the right, where we would invent and innovate our own festival and set the tone with consumers as being the only one with an omni-channel festival across the country. And we committed that we would outgrow our peers. Every year, our budget would be higher than our peers' forecast, and we would make sure that whatever it took, this team was going to outgrow them. So we were going to take that digital growth mindset and use it to unlock growth at rates they had not. This was a major step and took, a lot of consistent effort with HR, with leadership to accept an evolution of the culture in digital in a way that we found to be a huge advantage. And now this Digital Growth Ninja program is actually something that we at Tomorrow teach as an academy. We've had 1,000 retailers around the world go through this program, and it just changes the trajectory of teams incredibly. So this is something not to discount as part of our journey. So let's transition to what this would mean to you as retailers in Latin America. As you look out at the conditions that I started with and what's critical, we think there are 5 things that each of you should embrace. No regrets that no retailer should avoid. The first thing is you've got to understand where your differentiation is, and that starts with a category. What is the category you operate that you have the greatest ability to defend against? You remember where this story started. We at Walmart China won with on-demand fresh. What is the category that you're going to use that's the most defendable? Typically, food or consumables are the categories where having vicinity to the customer is most critical for speed, for trust. Pick that category and understand that your stores are your advantage for that. Marry your store operator teams and understand they've got to be with you as the army to fight the battle. Also, get your channel strategy really right and make sure your leadership team is excited about the role of each of the channels you're going to compete in. If you're going to be on a super app, understand why and what you're going to get out of that, but make sure your branded app platform is your primary. To this day, we at Tomorrow have never seen a retailer who's better off long-term betting on marketplaces only and letting your branded platform suffer. That is where you will win long-term. You have to have a path for that to be compelling and competitive. Next, find digital in-store engagement opportunities. Create ways for that app, that platform, to be a utility to your customers when they're offline in your store. Make sure your P&L is ready for the next era. P&L 1.0 in retail is no longer relevant. You've got to make sure you've got alternative income streams that help you supplement the investments it takes to drive digital growth. And then look at how you can embrace this digital growth ninja mindset. I guarantee all of us that come out of that traditional retail world have to reset and realize that the way pure play competitors think is just not like us. It's a Kendrick Lamar song. Listen to it. They're not like us. They're more aggressive, more agile, more assertive. And if you look at the Chinese in Brazil right now, there's no better example. They are going to work at a pace that is not normal. You've got to be able to reset and level up the way you and your team think to be able to approach that. So with that, I now am going to transition, because so far on this call, Sebastian, there's one word that I've not mentioned that's probably the most common word in our industry today, and that is AI. And why have I not mentioned AI so far? Because at Tomorrow, we believe AI is not the strategy. AI is the accelerant to your strategy. And so I'm going to talk about the AI moment, but I want to make clear that if you don't have those 5 no regrets clear and your leadership team isn't on board with your roadmap to win in those areas, AI is not going to save you. But if you do have clarity, it is going to get you there faster, more effectively. And so let's look at what's happening in AI. And it is important. You've plugged in here because week to week, this space is changing at a pace that not even the internet did in the late 90s. This is next level. And so first, let's look at next slide, Melly, how to frame your thinking on AI. We think it's critical you understand as retailers, there's really 2 AI worlds to be working on. First is what we call co-consumption, and that is understanding how AI is going to play a role in your consumer journey and what their expectations are going to be as they AIify their life. But second is what we call co-intelligence, which is how you as leaders and your teams use AI to go faster, to go further, and to get more done with less. And interestingly, when you look at these two, the dollar impact, the actual impact to date, is more on the right. Retailers who have embraced co-intelligence are getting more done with less. And the consumer side is still very early, even though there's a lot of buzz in that space. We'll talk about that first, but just keep that in mind. Co-intelligence is where the money's being made today. Co-consumption is where it will be made in the future. Let's look at that co-consumption vector, though. Next slide, please. One more. Yeah, this is such a valuable space. Let's just understand some of the facts of what's happening in this world. First, and this is US data, so far, as of last month, 77% of Americans have used ChatGPT to date, 77%. Globally, this month, 800 million people will use ChatGPT. That makes ChatGPT the fastest growing consumer product in the history of humans. Number one. Fascinatingly, number 2 stat, if you look at how they're using it, 61% of Americans have used GPT, Gemini, or Claude to help them shop, to help them find something they're looking for, a problem they've got that they've got to solve through shopping. This is very important. It is changing the way people think about their shopping missions already. And what's so fascinating is the 57%. That consumers are starting to think of LLMs, of AI, as more trustworthy than their friends or family. And what's underneath that? First, they believe that LLMs have access to just more information. No human, no friend could know as much as an AI. And second, the AI is less biased. And so I can trust when I ask an AI what I need for a camping trip, they actually will be better than me asking a friend who just went camping. Really important. Lower left, where does that insight come from? You've got to go and know where they're getting that data. And if you look at where LLMs in the US are pulling data, it's the same places humans do. This is a survey of the top 5 AI applications in the US and what do they use for their data. Nearly all of them, Reddit, Wikipedia, they're scraping YouTube, Google, Yelp. They're going to where humans go, but they can go there every day and get the most up-to-date, most robust information. Another thing that's important on the lower right, how do consumers engage with this? This is so important because historically, consumers digitally have started with search. As we all know, we grew up in the search model, Meili, Amazon, I am looking for, give me results. Search is no longer the model. It's about responses over results. It's conversational. It's asking, as I'll show you in a minute, a demo, asking the LLM a question where you expect a conversational approach. And because of that response over result methodology, the way you as retailers influence those responses is much different than the way we did in the attribute-driven SEO world. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's go to the next slide. How are retailers influencing those responses? What are the ways to be able to show up in an LLM? There's really 3 models as of now. The first is to go populate content sources where the LLMs are scraping that data. So the lower left on the previous slide, the Reddits and Wikipedias. Retailers are finding ways to populate those with data, and the most current is the Ask Me Anything model on Reddit. So Sephora, for instance, ran an Ask Me Anything. They brought their buying team, their design team to engage with consumers. They had 8.4 million views on that content, half of them from bots, half of them from LLMs. So the AMA gives you organic, high quality, trusted content that LLMs end up consuming and influencing results. The second piece, very important, is adapting your PDPs. Product pages are built for search. We all know it. It's attribute driven. You've got to evolve that to be content and context driven. Realizing that your product page needs to be able to show up when somebody says, I'm going to Cancun next week. I need sunblock for my family. I've got 2 adults, 2 kids, 1 with sensitive skin. Right now, your attributes won't capture that. Your response-driven content has to. And then finally, what's hot, obviously, this week is the direct integrations. And retailers saying, I want to actually go up funnel. I want to be able to check out and drive that conversion within the AI application. And we'll actually see what that looks like in a minute. Let's go to the next slide and experience it. So here you are on ChatGPT last week. I need sunblock for a trip to Cancun. I've got my wife, my 2 kids. Give me a couple examples. ChatGPT is going to give me some education 6 seconds after my query. It's going to educate me on what I need to be considering. It's then going to give me some options based on what it recommends according to my family. And it's going to give me the chance to punch out to the Walmart app to be able to convert. Now, that experience is increasingly becoming very native and comfortable to consumers. And what just got announced yesterday, or actually, what's today? Thursday, Tuesday, is Walmart's integration directly into ChatGPT, so that 35 days from now, that won't be a punch out to the Walmart app. That'll be a conversion in ChatGPT with the MCP protocol that allows that checkout to occur there. Let's look at that next slide, Melly, to see how that's evolved. And so just in the last 2 years, we went from the first pilot of this, which was Instacart's integration with ChatGPT, where I could ask ChatGPT to check out for me on Instacart, to Perplexity Pro, the ability to check out on Perplexity item by item, to this month now, ChatGPT's checkout integration with Etsy, and then Quake Moment, Walmart being able to integrate, and the ability for them to capture that conversion on platform is remarkable. So this is space to watch. There's a lot of unknowns about how comfortable that integration will be to the consumer. Right now, it's an item by item checkout. It can't be a full basket. It depends. You won't be able to redeem if you've got credit in your Walmart account or a gift card. There's all kinds of friction that still exists in that moment, but that friction is probably going to melt away over the next year. And so very important to watch category by category. Let's look at the next slide, though, which is about how leading retailers are not just showing up in existing LLMs and influencing those AIs, but taking AI, what we call on platform, being able to really build that into the user experience of the app itself. Because as consumers get used to ChatGPT, many retailers believe this will become the behavior they expect when they come onto your platform. And so let's look at who's doing this. Walmart started just recently, June 2025, introduced in the US Sparky, their consumer-facing agent or AI application. All of the underlying data science has been built internally at Walmart. They're not using a ChatGPT or Claude. It's not a great product. It's getting very low user adoption right now, but watch the space as Walmart's committed to this becoming a really key part of the experience. But as of now, less than 1% usage, not really making an impact on the business. But Rufus is interesting. At Amazon, Rufus launched, almost a year ago, but it was only 6 months ago they converted from internal LLM to Claude. The Anthropic investment led to the Claude use and game changed Rufus's ability. They went from 1% use to just under 5% use currently. Consumers are really starting to get comfortable with Rufus and see it working quite well. It's driving some very interesting behavior among young consumers, particularly sub 25 years old. They're ending up shopping more frequently on Amazon. They're buying more. It's working. Alibaba's probably the most, not surprisingly. China consumers are adopting faster. And Ali in the search bar on Tmall, you can choose what model you want to use to search. And just under 10% of consumers are choosing Tongyiquan, their AI search, and it's working really well. So this is where leaders are at looking at on-platform, how to infuse this into the business. But let's go to the next slide as I really want to transition and wrap up on co-intelligence and on the importance of using AI internally. We talked about the consumer, but also realize your two other key stakeholders of your associate, expecting that you've got AI as part of their work experience, and investors. Fascinating to see on Wall Street in the US, retail investors now believe that AI adoption, as reflected in headcount reduction, is the best sign of progressive retail adoption. Meaning, as you lay off as a result of AI adoption, you actually will see your stock price go up. And it's the first time that layoffs have been reflected positively among investors, and that's a result of this view that AI is the future. On the right, we've boiled down retailers that really are leading in terms of AI adoption internally, the process they go through to inspire their teams with a big vision about the role of AI, enabling them with the right tooling, setting expectations that this has to happen, incentivizing with rewards for those that use it and embrace it, measuring the productivity gains, and then banking those productivity gains, often in headcount reductions. I'm going to give one example on the next slide of what really is the most dramatic change management journey that we've seen Walmart go on in the US. And this is really focused on the US currently, but is pretty remarkable. All 6 of those steps that I just described, Walmart is modeling, starting with Doug McMillon, John Furner, the leadership team of the US, saying, we will be the most AI-ified retailer in the country, if not the world. We will lead and we will go first in the space. They have 4 priorities. The consumer side, we talked about developers, suppliers, but associates, looking at internally, which is where we're going to look at in a moment. Currently, at Walmart, every quarter, if you're a VP or above, you have to report to an AI council how your team has used AI this quarter, incremental to last quarter. What more are you doing with AI this quarter versus last quarter? And what has that created in terms of savings of hours? How many headcount are you able to reduce the need for as a result of AIing this quarter versus last quarter? To the right of that, you can see there's now an expectation that as a VP, every meeting you have with your team, you're asking people, how did you use AI to prepare for this meeting? And in the way you used AI, how much time did you save? And what did you do with that time? So there's a behavior change expectation that every leader in the business will have their teams using AI and changing their productivity levels as a result of it. There are quarterly hackathons where winners are winning big cash payouts if they come out with better ways to use AI in their teams. The finance team at Walmart now has a trophy, a 5-foot almost a 2-meter trophy that if you are the biggest user of AI that month, that trophy gets given to you and you're considered the AI champion. This is truly the most transformative moment that we have seen. I only spent 15 years at Walmart, but looking back over the last 65 years, this is really a unique moment. And you can see on the lower right a statistic that I'll talk about more on the next slide. We can go ahead and jump to it. The output that this transformation is creating is pretty remarkable. 6 weeks ago now, was Walmart Plus Week, which is the biggest promotion week for Walmart in the US. And they saw an increase in their productivity as a team of 40% with 30% less headcount. 40% more work completed, 30% less headcount working on that work this year versus last year. And that's largely a result of these models that are now commonplace within that team. First, the analysis that the team used to spend hours a day pulling together to understand what happened yesterday and what should I do is now conversational. Wally is the tool they're able to use to ask, what do I need to know about yesterday in my week-to-date business and what action should I take? Any asset creation, a banner, a product page photo, an event page set of content used to take 6 weeks to be able to submit the brief, see a first version, iterate on it. Now it takes 2 weeks to be able to create end-to-end. Any type of product page content optimization, product name, specification, all those attributes and conversational context used to take 10 hours per item. Now is 10 minutes. It's literally input the item ID, push a button, and let the product go scrape and determine what's necessary for the product page. And you can see campaign creation, pricing optimization, new item inventory forecasting, all being powered by tools that are in many cases built on basic LLMs, ChatGPT as a foundation, Copilot as a foundation with some customization internally. But this isn't all 2-year development, these aren't massive development projects. Many of these are pretty quick wins that as the teams have adopted them, they've gotten better and better, but has resulted in a remarkable output difference as a team. So that is bleeding edge, but that's what's possible. And so let's bring it back, next slide, Melly, to really wrap it in what we at Tomorrow think are those 5 no regrets and how AI is an important accelerator to them. So again, as you look at the next 3 years in your business as an e-commerce leader, as an omni-channel sponsor, first, understand your channel strategy. Be very clear and deliberate about the role of your app, your platform, the role of your secondary channels, super apps, marketplaces. Be strategic, be deliberate, and understand how to win in each one of those channels. Second, embrace the differentiation that you have in your categories and your stores as a critical capability. Don't shy away from getting your stores to be part of the core of your strategy and making sure that they know why and what's in it for them. And they've got the tooling and capabilities. And as I said, gig labor is a key release valve, or was at Walmart. We find it around the world. I think Subale probably fits in this space. Understand digital in-store engagement and where that's a place where you can connect with the consumer in unique ways and not have them invisible when they're in store and only know them when they're on your online channel. Connect with them across. Lean into monetization. This is essential. This isn't a nice to have anymore. If you can't keep up, it's a 30% discount in your profit dollars available to invest. And then realize that if you're operating at a traditional store pace, if you're accepting a lot of the traditional store rules just because that's the way it's always been, you've got to reset. Really think differently about how you activate growth in this part of your business. You're competing with a very different species of competitors here, and so you've got to think differently. And then as you've got those clear and you've got alignment with your leadership team and your team understands the roadmap, start to look at things through the AI lens. What can you do to make sure that your teams are more effective and faster at achieving those goals? And over time, that your consumer experience remains native and is compelling in an AI consumer journey. So with that, actually a perfect time to play that video because I missed it and I would love to see, Sebastian, where Subale
Listo.
fits into that story.
Jordan, thank you. Gente, no se vayan. Vamos a pasar al Q&A. Y antes de hacer eso, vamos a darle play a un pequeño video. Por favor, escriban sus preguntas. Aquí ya tengo consolidadas preguntas que me han enviado por WhatsApp algunos de nuestros clientes y también que están acá y están buenísimas. Entonces esperen, porque ahí es donde vamos a bajar a la realidad nuestra en Latinoamérica, mucho de esta visión de Jordan. Vamos con el video.
Nuestro ecosistema de soluciones y herramientas empodera a los retailers a escalar sus canales digitales, mejorando sus niveles de servicio, su rentabilidad y su capacidad de crecimiento. Con FlexiFleet, activamos un marketplace inteligente de freelancers impulsado por IA, automatización y precios dinámicos para ejecutar operaciones de picking, packing y delivery con máxima eficiencia. Además, nuestra tecnología nos permite gestionar órdenes de e-commerce y marketplaces, optimizando cada etapa del proceso con precisión y velocidad. Nuestra tecnología modular se integra fácilmente con los sistemas de los retailers o con plataformas de picking y delivery, brindando total visibilidad y control de cada operación. El resultado, 96% de entregas a tiempo, hasta 30% menos costos fijos en picking y delivery y 96% de cumplimiento, impulsando un crecimiento escalable. Con Consumer Connect, aumentamos las ventas online a través de una solución de WhatsApp potenciada por IA, que automatiza los flujos de venta y postventa, habilitando upselling, cross-selling, sustituciones inteligentes por falta de stock y seguimiento en tiempo real. El impacto, hasta 20% más ventas y 80% menos costos de soporte.
¡Súbale! E-commerce growth made easy. Descubre más en nuestro sitio web.
Bueno, gracias a todos por sus preguntas. I'm going to start, Jordan, translating a couple of questions for you. So let me start. Some are anonymous and some are not. So this first is from Franci Perilla from Macro, which is a top retailer in Latin America with a huge presence in Colombia, where we have built a beautiful use case. So her question is, in countries like Colombia, where e-commerce is growing, but logistics infrastructure remains a challenge, what key learnings from China's model could be adapted to improve last mile delivery and enhance customer experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, I feel like the parallels are quite close between Colombia and China in that 2016-17 era where national logistics was a real problem. Getting packages across the country fast and cost effectively was a big challenge. However, local logistics emerged and became very powerful and very cost effective. So first, I would say, to repeat my point, if you can shorten your delivery distances by leveraging your stores, that last mile delivery should mature and become very cost effective quickly, particularly with gig delivery. Flexible contract-based delivery was the answer in China and what enabled us to be able to deliver fast and profitably. As the national logistics networks start to really develop. And so I think you look at it in two lanes and you make sure that you're winning with local and you watch that national logistics progression and see where you need to tap into that and try to avoid it where you can, leverage fast local delivery. That was the key for retailers in China.
Thank you, Jordan. We have another question. You spoke about the multi-app channel strategy. How do you see WhatsApp as a sales channel fitting strategically in Latin America?
Yeah, it's fascinating because at least in most markets, I think including in Latin America, the primary use case for WhatsApp is consumer engaging directly with brand or retailer, but not downloading a mini program or an app within WhatsApp. And so WhatsApp continues to look like a very interesting engagement platform where if your consumer prefers it, you need to show up and be able to be there answering questions, sharing marketing communications, engaging them, treating it more CRM than sales channel. But the moment the capabilities evolve and you can actually engage, browse, shop, activate promotions, that's what happened for us in WeChat. And when that happened, we built an app inside the platform. So once the capabilities were there for us to basically show our entire experience inside WeChat, we went ahead and did that. But prior to that, it was a very important, the number one engagement channel. And so I would look to the WeChat CRM capabilities and see how people create these circles of consumers and be able to engage them. I'd be constantly engaging through WhatsApp. I'd make sure any customer interaction where that's their preferred channel, you're there and you're showing up better than your peers. And then once you can take your entire brand and lift and shift it into that platform, try to replicate the app because it could feel like your primary, your consumer app. If you can replicate that inside WhatsApp, it's an incredible way to save them the need to download and register while still being on your app.
That's a great comment because, as you know, Subale, we have Consumer Connect, and we work with retailers across LATAM to build the sales channel in WhatsApp, and we are progressing incredibly. So we have cases in Colombia, in Brazil, in Mexico, where they are already selling 20% of their total digital sales in WhatsApp after 4 or 5 months. And it's very interesting how it's growing very fast. Next question. This is from a CEO of a regional retailer in Brazil. His question is, as a retailer that is just starting in e-commerce, there is a natural tension between investing in our own channel, which takes longer to scale, I'm traducing from Portuguese, and requires major internal changes, or partnering with platforms like iFood, 90Food, 99Food, or Kita to sell through their ecosystem. From your perspective, what will be your recommendation to me as the CEO on how to prioritize these channels short and long term? What should be my North Star, the path that truly maximizes long-term value creation for the company?
Yeah, it is one of the top 3 most important questions as a retail CEO. And the opposite of the North Star, the risk, is that you become so reliant on those third-party channels that you never take the step needed to build your own direct capabilities. And so I would say the North Star needs to be that long-term, your app, your platform is your consumer's preferred channel. That is where they want to be to shop with you. That doesn't mean you don't take advantage of your partnerships to be able to learn aspects of e-commerce, grow your volume, stay competitive, but you have to invest and be committed that your platform is going to be their preferred option. And that is a journey. And in many cases, you need to be creative about that journey. If you don't have the resources to field your own tech team and build a great world-class app, be creative. In my case, I partnered with Tencent, which owned WeChat, and they said they'd come in and help build an app for us. And so we used their resources and their commitment to help retailers grow to get started and be able to start from a place of strength and then build on that. So be creative, be thoughtful, but know as a North Star, you cannot have more than 50% of your e-commerce GMV coming from third-party marketplaces channels in the near, call it midterm. You just will not be relevant, competitive, and able to stay in the game 5 years from now.
Jordan, and I want to follow up personally on that. So what have you seen in China? So you guys partner with those marketplaces and then you invested in your own capabilities. So you develop your own experience. So consumer wanted to come. You stayed in all the channels. What happened with the share of your sales? This part grew faster or it didn't?
Yeah. So in the first couple of years, 2016, 17, our marketplace channel was growing rapidly. By 2018, we committed to our app and we decided that's where we needed to fund. Let me pause for a second. You will get subsidies from your third-party platforms. They will pay to drive sales for you. And that is a drug. It's a very nice drug, but it's a drug. And so your sales could grow in a Kita very rapidly, subsidized by Meituan. You just have to be aware that that's short term. You need to know that at some point you're going to need to invest to grow your channel, which is what we did. And ultimately, our branded channel ended up growing at 2x the rate of marketplaces. And now they sit at a 70-30 own channel versus marketplaces. And that's an awesome place to be. 70-30 is the healthiest portfolio mix. You continue to take, and by the way, the 30%, that marketplace should be more profitable. That actually should be your high margin e-com channel. Your branded platform is profitable, but it isn't going to earn the same margins that you're earning on those third-party channels. So make it here to invest it there and get to a 70-30 over the long term.
Great. This next question is from an executive in a department store chain that operates across LATAM. So her question is, let's talk about delivery speed for department stores. What's the sweet spot in delivery to truly compete with Amazon or Mercado Libre, particularly in general merchandise and fashion?
It's such a good question because you're right in the middle. Many of your categories don't feel like consumers need them in 60 minutes, but your competitors are now same day or faster. And ultimately, it's important to expect that Amazon and Mercado Libre end up at 5 hours or faster in most of your big cities. That's their target. I know some of them might be on the call and we can debate that, but we can see it from every market that they mature this. It's a 5-hour proposition. And so you've got to be able to figure out how do you get to same day or faster with your extended range, and with what's in store, you're making that available in, we would say, 2 hours or less. You're encouraging pickup as a fast option. Anyone who wants to pick up in an hour, call it a rapid pickup. You're delivering in 2 hours or less. And then with your extended assortment that's coming from a fulfillment center, you're going to need to get to that same day expectation. You can't be 2, 3, 4 days when the marketplaces are same day or faster. It just isn't going to work for you long term.
Awesome. I think we've got space for 1 or 2 more questions. This next question is internally from Zubali, from Fernando, our general manager in Brazil. So what kind of partnerships do you think will define the next phase of retail growth in the region? If you were a CEO of a retail in LATAM, what partnerships will you be focused on building?
Yeah. So first, as a CEO, I'm going to want to make sure that my technical capabilities, that I'm able to keep pace and be able to build product and evolve my products fast enough. And so I've got to look at, what does that take? Can I build the team, attract the team to be able to do that? Or do I need partnerships to augment that? I need my product and technical capabilities to be an advantage. Second, I need to know what I want to do better than anybody else, and I need to define that as things I need to own or at least have proprietary. And so if that is your in-store, if the software you're using for in-store, I know, Sebastian, we've debated this in many cases, you basically need to decide, what are you going to be best at in your space, and make sure that you can have proprietary advantage over that. And then everything else that is essential to winning, and you've heard me say last mile, flexible picking, make sure that you've got great partners. Very few retailers are going to be able to build their own last mile capability to be cost competitive, speed competitive. Partner deeply and figure out how you can build advantages by being a better partner. It's one of the things that's so underrated. If I partner with a gig platform, I want to be that gig platform's preferred destination to pick up and deliver an order, not the one that causes them the most trouble, most cost. Find out how to win by being a better partner for your partners so they invest more in you and you can gain advantage that way. So I think it's, what do you need to be best at yourself, and what's adjacent to that where partners get excited to help you grow because your growth vision is ambitious, exciting. They want to come along and co-invest with you.
Thank you, Jordan. We're on time. Gracias. And con eso es buenísimo para cerrar. Y eso es lo que hacemos en Súbale. Podemos ser tu socio estratégico para escalar de manera rentable tu e-commerce, desde picking, packing o delivery, ventas por WhatsApp o software para hacerlo de manera más inteligente, rápido y productivo. Contáctanos. Jordan, how can people contact you? I'm requesting, people is asking me.
Yeah, we would love to have more conversations. If you find me on LinkedIn, let's connect, let's get on a call, let's unpack. I know there's a lot here, but every one of the things we've talked about is achievable. If you have clarity and alignment with your leadership team, let's talk about how to get that. Would love to connect.
Thank you, Jordan. So LinkedIn, great. We're going to play a last video, and thank you everyone for being here. Gracias a todos. Obrigado, meus amigos brasileiros, por estar aquí.
Súbale es el aliado estratégico para acelerar el crecimiento del e-commerce en América Latina. Nuestro ecosistema de soluciones impulsadas por inteligencia artificial ayuda a los retailers a escalar de forma rentable y ofrecer experiencias excepcionales al cliente a lo largo de todo el recorrido de compra en línea. Operamos en 6 países y seguimos expandiéndonos. Más de 115 clientes y $70 millones en inversión respaldan nuestro crecimiento junto a los principales retailers de la región. Súbale. Crecer en e-commerce nunca fue tan fácil. Conoce más en nuestro sitio web.
Gracias. Obrigado. Chao. Thank you. Chao. Chao, Jordan.